Tuesday, August 6th, 2024, 10 p.m. Central Standard Time. You are watching Co-op for Two. Today we're going to be playing a game called Washed Ashore, and we're going to be playing it with COVID. That's the situation we're in here. I've just gotten back from Gen Con. The entire group I went with has gotten COVID, including me, and it seems a good portion of Gen Con attendees. So this will be a little experiment. I'm doing okay, but I can feel I'm breaking out in sweats. My throat is a little hoarse, but I thought it's a little touch and go. Like, I could put off these live streams, and then that would be great if I get better in the next couple days, but if I get worse in the next couple days, better to do it now. So we'll see what this is like. Maybe we'll role play this as if we've gotten shipwrecked and we're suffering from some kind of infection that's muddying our mind. So, before we get started here, let's talk about Washed Ashore. This is the box we're going to be playing, Washed Ashore. Now, something interesting happened when I went to look up images for this game on the website. The images were called like Robinson 1, Robinson Front. So it's very clear that this really is Robinson Crusoe. They decided maybe at the last minute to call it Washed Ashore. And I've got this next to the real classic solo Robinson Crusoe game called Friday by Friedman Freese. A classic from 2011 and a very well-regarded game for good reason. And it's going to be interesting to see how these compare. Of course, there are Robinson Crusoe cooperative solo games, the most famous one by Portal, which is a big box game that recently had a Kickstarter with lots of scenarios and missions. But when you think about small box solo games, this is the one that really comes to mind. And Friday is not a narrative game the way I believe this one is. It's much more of a traditional solo game where you would play it many times. You could play it hundreds of times, and you're not playing it for the story. You're playing it for the strategy game. And there's lots to like in this game. There's a whole mechanic where you flip cards, you tackle them first as a hazard, then you flip it and it becomes a card in your hand. And I think we're going to see some of that repeated here in this game, Washed Ashore. And this game is subtitled Fate Flip. And I think the idea then is that this may be part of a series. So we're going to open up, we're going to look at the rules, we're going to play it. I guess the other game I should say that I brought out that I'm sort of reminded of is this Cartaventura system. There's a bunch of boxes for this, only a couple translated into English, but it has a similar feel. There's some minimal resources, there's a little bit of choose your adventure and strategy. So I am curious how Washed Ashore will compare to these. Heiki says, I've played Friday multiple times. It does get boring after a while. I haven't played in quite some time. Kurt says, I liked Friday. I remember feeling the rulebook was really bad for a pretty simple game. I was looking at the rulebook again recently. I have to agree, the rulebook is not great for Friday, but it is a very elegant game. And we're going to see how Washed Ashore compares. Okay, so let's take a look at this. Now, I did read the instructions already when I was at Gen Con, but let's just... One player, 10 and up, 35 minutes. So normally we multiply by 3, so that would give us a 90-minute game. Now, one thing I noticed right from the start here is this little thing here. A story that develops differently depending on your decisions, facing with either immediate consequences or implications you will find out later on. Discover all 13 endings to this adventure. So that's where it sounds a little bit similar to the Cartaventura system and a choose your own adventure book where there are multiple endings. But you can see there's a lot more going on here than you would find in a standard choose your own adventure thing. All right, so we've got these markers that we're going to be using to track some stats. All right, let's open this box up. So is there anything else we need to talk about? I have scheduled, I earlier scheduled a 3-day playthrough of War Story, which is behind me, which I talked about in my Gen Con recap. And what I need to say is that live stream starting this Thursday, Friday, Saturday is going to be contingent on how I'm feeling. If I feel better, we'll continue on with it. If I don't, I will postpone that for a week. Does that seem reasonable? Okay. Anything else to talk about? I guess I should say the price of this. I paid $18 for this at Gen Con, and it was a weird thing because they advertised it in the brochure at like $14. Then it looks like they realized they could get more for it at Gen Con, so they increased to $18. But the pre-order price on the board game websites now is like $12. So it's a very affordable game. All right, let's go over the rules together here. I guess I'm going to need your help with COVID. Need help, more help than normal. All right, so it says there's 68 cards. Don't shuffle it. Read the top card and follow the instructions on it. These instructions contain reference information. Okay, so it wants us to just walk our way through the deck. So let's just do that, I guess. I have my little green screen. Maybe it doesn't look that different for you. Okay. Fate Flip is a story that develops differently depending on your decisions, facing with either immediate consequences or implications you will find out later on. Play the game several times, discover all 13 endings. Do not shuffle the cards in this deck unless you are explicitly told to do so. Flip and read this card. So some of these cards, you'll see there's a bottom and top. It's telling us to flip it this way. All right, so it's going to teach us the game. This is the modern way of teaching board games. I like this. During the game, you'll add cards to your hand. This will be your pile. Handling the pile, you will advance with the story. Keep the rest of the cards in 2 decks, a story deck and an item deck, on the table, and take cards from them only when you are explicitly told to do so. Different types of cards are marked with different icons in the upper right corner to make it easier for you to find the cards you need. All right, and then it tells you more information. With the pile, read only the text on the upper half of the card. Then choose one of the available options to advance the story. Follow all the instructions, if any. Apply the effects of each icon next to your choice in order. You can find description of all the icons on page 2 and 3. Keep the legend in sight until you remember all the icons. Place the next cards 2 to 14 as a separate deck on the table. These are the items that you can collect during the game. Take items from this deck when you're instructed to do so. Return them back to the item deck when asked to discard them. You might come across these items or the items on the back of these cards. Attention, item cards are double-sided, marked with an asterisk and sometimes 2 asterisks. Now take card 15, discard this card 1, placing it under the story deck. Okay, so we're told to take the item cards and set them aside. 1 through 14. 2 through 14. Yes. Oh, there's the numbers. Okay. They're a little weirdly colored. It's a little hard, but okay. So there's our items. Those go off to the side. Discard card 1, which is this card that we started out with. We're done with that. Take card 15. On the back of this card, you will find a counter for Chapter 1 of the game, where you will move the clips along the scales to track 3 parameters important for the character's success. You cannot exceed the highest value on any scale. If the effect of any icon on a story card drops any scale to 0, first follow the instructions on the counter and only then finish the icon effects on the card. See detailed instructions. Attention, dropping some of the scales to 0 may be fatal for your character, so be careful with your decisions. Now set the clip markers on the dark green triangles along the edge of this card. For an easier game, set the clips on the light green triangles. You're ready to play. Okay, so it's telling us we can start like this on the dark green, or if we wanted an easier game on the light green, I guess we'll start on hard. Is there any sense in which... Oh, okay, so you're ready to play. If you have any questions about the game, check out the instructions. Take card 16 and flip this card and put it on the table. Okay, so here we go. You can see we're starting at 4 energy, 3 food, 3 safety. And if they ever hit 0, we do what it says here. So it looks like if you hit 0, you got a snake. You hit 0, you lose something, lose something. And if you were playing it on easier mode, you'd have 1 higher in each. Okay. So we'll just start ourselves. We'll play a normal game. Put this on the table. Take card 16, which is chapter 1. This externity roused my application. Daniel Defoe. Well, that's a weird sentence. Sounds like this person has got a muddled mind themselves. This extremity roused my application. It doesn't really sound like English. Okay, and then it's telling us to flip it and do something else. So let's now go to the instructions and walk through, because it seems like we need to read some instructions. Okay, so if we see this, plus one of these, take a random card with the corresponding icon in the top right corner, add it to the back of the pile in your hand. When such an icon has a number before it, for example, 4 shells, take all cards with this icon. The number indicates the total amount in the deck. Shuffle them and add them to the back of your pile without changing their orientation. You have to discard your previous pile from your hand. Use the newly taken cards as your new pile. Okay, I guess not 100% clear, but okay, so add a point to the corresponding scale, subtract a point, take the card numbered, flip this card over its long edge, flip this card over its short edge, discard this card, place it under the story deck on the table if it's a story card, or put it back into item deck if it's an item card. So I guess the cards we were meant to discard, one, I'm going to put underneath this deck. Okay. Move this card to the back of your pile. So our pile is our hand, and we clearly have to keep it in order. Leave this card on top of your pile. Okay, so that's what we got here. Flip this card and leave it on the top of our pile. Discard the whole pile from your hand. Place it under the story deck on the table, except for the cards you were just told to take. Leave the collected items on the table unless you're explicitly told otherwise. Keep this card on the table in front of you. Okay. Example, when you choose this option, first add 1 point to your energy scale. Subtract 2 points from your food scale. Flip over the card on its short edge and leave it on top of your pile. Okay? Immediately read the text on the upper half of the card. All right, fair enough. How do you play? Keep your pile in your hand. Only look at the top half of the card. First, change the corresponding scale's value if you see their respective icons. Read the introductory text. Choose one of the available options. You may only choose this option if you meet the preceding criteria. You have or have not collected the indicated item, or one of your clip markers shows a certain value. Okay, so there may be an option that we can only choose if we have an item. Choose one of the options. You could either choose this, or this if you have a knife. Choose one. Okay. Some options have a highlighted instruction text in addition to the icons. If you choose this option, follow this instruction first and only then continue with the icons. Note, all story cards have a number on their front that makes it easier to find the necessary card in the deck. Return the cards to their original state at the end of the game. Most of the cards have an icon next to the number. Take these cards from the deck when you're instructed to do so. Apply the effects of each icon. This part is that's a little bit confusing to me. This is card 72, and this is telling you to take a tree card from the deck. Or a tree card from the items? Well, all right, we'll have to tackle that when we first get it. I would love to have an example of what they want us to do there. Take these cards from the deck when you are told to do so, all right? Take these cards? No, take one card, it says. Now this says take a random card. If it has a number, take all the cards with this icon, shuffle them, and add them to the back of your pile. That's pretty confusing, actually. This one says take a random card with this number. This says take these cards from the deck. Maybe the FAQ clarifies it. I shuffled the deck just sort of in order. There's an icon on the front of the introductory text. What does it mean? Minus this, you enter a thin grove. First, change the corresponding scale. Then, okay, that's fine. Here, where to and what order do I add new story cards? New story cards are always added to the back of your pile before you start manipulating the card you've just read. Imagine you have received the following instructions. It says, first of all, you need to add a random card with the tree icon to the back of your deck. Shuffle all cards with this icon and take one. Then return the rest of the cards to the deck. Okay, so I guess they're going to quickly go out of order, but you randomly shuffle and take one. Then after that, do the safety. Lastly, flip and move the current story card according to those icons. Okay. I need to add a tree card to my pile, but there are no more cards with this icon in the deck. What should I do? In rare cases, the deck may run out of cards with certain icons. If such cards are already in your pile or have been discarded, just ignore the instruction to add such cards. Okay? I've chosen an option requiring an item I have previously collected. Do I have to discard the used item? The card does not explicitly tell you to discard certain items. Keep them on the table. You may use the same item multiple times. Keep your items even when you start the next chapter, unless you are told otherwise. I realized at some point I flipped over a card incorrectly. What should I do? Backtracking can be tricky. Don't worry about it. Just continue playing. Okay? Think of it as though your character's bumped his head and is a bit disoriented. Okay, I want to take a break and finish the game later. What's the best way to stack the cards now? Mix them, arrange the cards in the following order. All the items you've collected, your pile, your custom counter. All right, to resume your game. All right, well, that's it. All right, well, we'll keep the legend handy. All right, so we started out, we have no cards in our pile, right? We'll add cards to our hand. Okay, we have a pile, it stays in order. We just do the top card of the pile at a time. 2 to 14 was our item deck. We just put that nearby. These are items you can collect. We don't have those yet. Now take card 15, discard card 1, placing it under the story deck. Okay. And then 15 was this, which we're going to keep on the table. All right, here's chapter 1. This extremity roused my application. Daniel Defoe. All right, so it wants us to flip it and then keep it on the top of our deck. So here's the top of our deck, top of our pile, our hand. You come to your senses on a sandy beach. The sun is burning your back. Your clothes are stuck to your body. The sea salt makes your skin red and itchy. Your tongue barely moves in your mouth. Your hands tremble from weakness. And as soon as you rise to your knees, your stomach empties itself of all the water you swallowed while floundering in the waves during the storm. This jogs your memory. You remember a huge wave rolling onto the ship and washing you overboard. The water flooded your eyes, and you quickly lost sight of the ship. The ocean tossed you around for so long you lost all hope. You're lucky to be alive, but where did you end up? The storm caught you far away from the mainland, so you were probably washed onto an island. But is it inhabited? Has it been mapped? And do ships sail here? Will you ever return to your homeland, and will you even be able to survive? Take cards 17 through 20 without shuffling them and start reading the top card. And then it says 4 shells. And then it says, only if this is not your first game. Okay, well, it is our first game, so we're not going to do that. To avoid accidentally looking at the cards in the deck, flip this card and put it on top of the deck instead of under it as usual when discarding cards. So, okay, so it wants me to flip this and put this on top. And then this icon says, discard this card, place it under the story deck. Okay, so normally we would put it on the bottom, but now we're going to put it on the top. And it wants us to take 17 through 20. Now, are these the seashells? Yes. Okay. So it told us to take 17 through 20. Told us to take 17 to 20, and it said 4 seashell icons. It's a little misleading though, because 17 through 20 are 4 seashells, but the rules really told us to find all the seashells and shuffle them up. But maybe there are no other seashells. If there were, then the rules would be a little confusing. Okay, but there are no other seashells. But the rule said we should shuffle them randomly, but this says don't shuffle them. If it's not your first game, it tells you to shuffle them. Okay, so normally we would shuffle them, but now we're not going to. And then it says to put this on the top of the deck so we don't look at them. And then this is our hand, our pile. So we're going to make our way through this from top to bottom. Let me just take a moment to remind you, this is clearly a game where a big part of the charm is encountering it for the first time, although it seems like this game is meant to be replayed. So if this looks like a game you think you might enjoy, you may want to stop watching now, go purchase it yourself, play it, and then come back and watch this afterwards. Let's just check in with the chat before we get started here. Let's see. Kit Catherine has joined us finally for a live stream. Got nice kind words from Marlene. All right, here we go. Let's get back into it. So you can see Friday has this very similar thing where you've got a top of a card and a bottom of a card which is not yet active. Let's see how that works. Your memories of the past few hours before you were washed on this unfamiliar shore start to come back. Your hands are still shaking and your knees are buckling from what you've gone through. You decide to gain some strength in the cool shade of a nearby palm tree. You lie down in the sand and soon fall asleep. So we could do this, which would get us 2 of our energy, would lose us a safety, and we would flip this card over and put it in the back. We would flip it to this side. Okay, it's interesting. Nothing has told us to rotate anything yet. All right, so that's one thing we could do with this card. Get extra energy, lose safety, and put this flipped on the back of the deck. We don't know. Or it can be dangerous here. First, you need to explore your surroundings. We could go add a tree card to our deck. Spend energy, so then we would lose a fish. Gain some safety and put this in the back. I guess I'm inclined. It's daytime. We just woke up. Surely if there were creatures here that were going to hurt us, they would have already gotten us while we were passed out. So I don't think we need to worry about safety yet. Let's get some rest. Okay. So we go up by 2 energy, which is here, to 6. We lose a safety down to 2. We take this card, we flip it and put it at the back. Okay, next up here. Lose a fish. Okay, now we're down to 2. After a couple of hours, you feel your tongue sticking to the roof of your mouth. Water. You fight the urge to drink straight from the ocean and set out in search of a fresh spring. So either we walk along the beach looking for a river or a stream. I didn't forget anything here, did I? Yes, I did. No, I did this one, so I didn't grab a tree. Okay. Maybe we should have explored. All right, so we can either walk along the beach looking for a river or a stream, which would bring out this kind of card, flip this way and put it at the back. Or a palm tree grove on the shore beckons you into its cool shade. Maybe you'll find something there. So we're not supposed to look at these bottom things. Maybe there's something we can put over this bottom thing so we won't be tempted to read these. All right, so did I already lose the fish? Yes, I did. We need water. I don't know. I guess these cards are of different kind. I'm looking for a river or a stream or a cool shade. I guess let's do this one. Jonathan says, walking along the beach makes sense. Okay, so we're going to do this one. So we're going to take one random island card. So let's see. That's these. If there's any others. But it would help if they're all lumped together. Okay. So this is weird because we're kind of pushing them out of order. So I'm going to randomly take one. Put the other one on the bottom of the deck. That's weird. Did it say to put them at the bottom of the deck? And then what do we do when we get one of these cards? Where do we put it? Add it to the back of your pile. All right, so without even looking at it, I've put one of these at the back. So it's going to take us a while to find it. Then this gets flipped and put at the back. Strange. You glance longingly at the horizon, wondering if you'll ever see your homeland again, when suddenly you notice a corpse bobbing on the waves. Perhaps this easy prey has already attracted sharks, but you still decide to swim and take a closer look at the body. What if it's someone from your crew? So we can lose some safety to flip this and put it on the top of our deck. So we would do it right away. Fear twists in your stomach. You turn away and walk off. You can do nothing of help anyway. Yeah, I'm not swimming out for a dead body with sharks in it. There could be something on it, you know, some good item on that body. But, well, What do you think? Sort of depends. Is it going to wash ashore on its own? But look at this interesting thing. Like, we'll flip it one direction if we try to climb out for it. We'd lose a safety. Our safety is not so good. And exerting ourselves, we need water. I don't think we should do it. Let's not do it. We'll wait till it washes ashore. So I'm going to flip it and put it at the back. Okay. Let's move along. Right? Nothing else I was supposed to do. I'm not doing this one. I'm doing this one. So I'm just flipping it at the back. Examine the coast, and in the nearest grove you soon come to a pool overgrown with reeds. Small creatures bustle about in the water among the stems. We can either look for a stick to hunt there later. With some difficulty, you manage to pull out a few stalks. Their fibers are strong, and you want to try weaving a rope or a net out of them. Boy, that sounds good. The dense thicket looks dangerous. You do not dare go in there. Or if we had a knife, we could do something. All right, well, a net would be amazing. And a stick to hunt here later would be good too. It seems like maybe we could get the stick. With some difficulty, you manage to pull out a few stalks. Their fibers are strong. You want to try weaving a rope or a net. A rope or a net sounds like a good way to hunt fish to me. So I think we should do this. So, and we rested and got some energy. So I'm going to do that middle one. I'm going to bring our energy down to 4. Then we're going to take this card. We're going to flip it over and put it on top. Okay. From the fibers, you manage to weave a strong rope. So take card 3, which is our rope. What does this icon mean again? Discard this card, place it under the story deck, or put it back into the admin. Okay, so it wants us to get rid of this card. Okay, so we've made the rope, so we don't need that card anymore. And the rope stays available for us on the table. Okay, so we now have our rope, should we need it. Take the rope, that's it, okay. Thoughts of survival. Your need of food and water and a good night's sleep exhaust you, but you can't help wondering, did anyone else survive? Are they looking for you? We can lose an energy and conclude that none of your crew made it. This sad realization gnaws at your heart. Or you should save more food. Your supplies are low, you'll need your strength. Or with a knife. Boy, that knife would have been nice to have. Well, this is a weird thing. We're wondering if anyone's needing us, still alive. We can conclude that none of the crew made it, which makes us sad. Or we can do what? Save more food. Your supplies are low, you will need your strength. What does that mean? Save more food. This eats a food. In both cases, we're going to flip this card and put it at the back. I don't really understand how this narrative makes sense with this. I guess we're either sad and lose some energy, or we eat some food. Well, we're at 4 energy and 2 food, so because these have the same effect, essentially, maybe it's better if we eat our energy. I'm going to do this one. I lost an energy, and this card gets put at the back. Okay, so this looks like we made it to our palm tree. This is the thing we decided to look around for water. During one of your hikes, you walk along the coast. A few minutes later, you come to a cliff. Wild parsnips grow on its steep slope. We could minimally clean a few roots and swallow them, barely chewing, not noticing the earth crunching between your teeth. Yuck. But it gets us some food. First, you need to rest in the shade of these dense shrubs. You drop exhaustedly at the nearest bush. The roots aren't going anywhere. So we could eat this food and throw it away. Only with energy 2 value higher than 2. Okay, well, we do have energy higher than 2. We have 3. So we could go down the steep path to the ocean to wash them. So the wild parsnips that we're eating with dirt on it, we could go wash. The steep path to the ocean on a cliff, that does not seem safe. Seems like a good way to get hurt climbing down that cliff. Let's just eat it with the dirt on it. Okay, so our food goes up 1, and then this card gets discarded. We did not get any water. Let me see what the chat says. Yes, okay. All right, well, I've thrown out this card. It's a little troublesome, but all right. We were trying to get water from that card. Now you walk along the coast again, but you still do not find a stream or river, and we lose a food. Down to 2. You begin to doubt your reasons for plodding on under the blazing sun. Suddenly you notice the wreck of your ship on the ocean surface. So it's a mast and a sail. You can make something useful out of them. So we can lose our energy to try to collect them. Or among them, surprisingly, you notice a barrel of corned beef. What an unexpected gift of fate. So we could just eat 2 food and get rid of this card, or get the mast and sail that we can make something useful out of. I'd be inclined to get the... We only have 2 food, but I've been inclined to get the items. Let's try to get these items. So we're going to lose an energy, which drops us down to 2. And then we're going to flip this card over and put it up in the front. You fish your findings out of the water and look for a perfect place in the thicket nearby where you could build a solid tent, out of the mast and sail. Take a tent. All right, which is card 7. All right, so we built a tent for ourselves. I can see that items are a big part of this game. That's pretty cool, just like in Portal Games Robinson Crusoe. We gain a safety up to 3, and then we throw out this card. Constant hunger makes you weak. So either we can strengthen ourselves with the last of our rations. We can either eat a fish, which would bring us down to 1 food. That's a little scary. Increase our safety and energy. Or maybe you'll be able to find more food deeper in the woods. You decide to go there soon. Or you turn your gaze to the ocean, hoping to catch something edible. Suddenly you spot the corpse again. Waves have washed it ashore. Bad omen? You decide to bury it, but the stench makes you vomit. So this was the card that was the corpse that we ignored at first. I like how it's a very clever mechanic, how we get a card and we sort of delay when it comes back in a different form. Very interesting. So there could be something with that, on that corpse, of value to us, but it's a lot of work to find it. to go retrieve it. 2 food would bring us to 0 food. Bad things would happen. We have to look up what happens, but it's not good. I'd be inclined to do this middle one. Let's do this. So 1 tree card comes out. Let's see. So there are 3 tree cards. They're all arranged together. So I'm going to shuffle these 3 cards. We take 1, we put the rest back. We throw out this card and we put the tree at the back of the deck. And then this card gets thrown away. Maybe you guys wanted to see that corpse, but we'll have to see it on the next playthrough. You wake up to a new dawn. After the night on solid ground, your limbs are hurting, but oddly enough, you feel rested. All right, so we got 2 energy, which brings us up to 4. We need food pretty badly. All right, now, do we have shelter? Only with shelter. I mean, we have a tent. We have a tent and there's no shelter card. So the question is, do we have shelter? It feels like we do have shelter. But do you think shelter is a card? Or is shelter our tent? All right, let's see. We can either spend some energy to go for a hike, try to get to the other side of the forest, which is exciting, or we can eat a bunch of food, which would bring us to 0 food. And so look mechanically what happens. In both cases, we flip this card, so we're going to see the same thing. But if we do this one, we get it right away. If we do this one, it goes to the back. Jonathan says, check the back of cards to see if there's a card that explicitly says shelter. There is. All right, Jonathan was right. Okay, so we don't have a shelter card. So we can't do this. There is a specific shelter card. I don't know how we got it. We have a tent, but not a shelter. Okay, so my inclination is to not eat our last 2 food. I don't want a bad thing to happen to us, so I think we should do this. So let's do this top item. We'll drop our energy down to 3. Flip this card over and put it back. There's only 2 cards here, so we're going to see it sooner or later. Okay, now it says lose an energy. Now we're down to 2 energy. Moving away from the shore, you go deeper and deeper into the woods, going down a hill overgrown with trees. This is our, we have 2 of these trees? Yes. Wait a second. See, it's easy to get lost in place here. I thought I lost my place here. So we did this one, right? We flipped this over. Oh. Must have been like this. We flipped it over and put it back. Okay, fine. Moving away from the shore, you go deeper and deeper into the woods, going down a hill overgrown with trees. You accidentally step on a pit half hidden under a layer of dry branches and fall into it. Fortunately, the pit is not too deep, and soon your heart, which had missed a few beats, starts beating again. For a moment, you wonder what you could use it for, but the overripe fruit lying around grabs your attention. So we can eat this fruit. We would lose to safety for whatever reasons, or This pit can serve as a trap for wild animals. You climb out of it and carefully disguise the trap with leaves and branches. So we could get some food right now with some fruit and lose this card, or we can use it as a trap, which I think we should do. But also now, we don't have campfire, so you can use dry branches and the pit to light a fire. You vigorously rotate a branch in a notch of the board you found on the shore. So we could make ourselves a campfire. All right, what does the channel want to do? Do you want to make a campfire, or do you want to use the pit to trap an animal? The thing is, if we catch an animal, we have to cook it, right? So it feels like maybe a fire is our thing. There's no point catching animal corpses if we can't cook them. So let's try to create a campfire. Use dry branches in the pit to light a fire. Okay, so we're going to lose some energy, which brings us to 1 energy. That's a little scary. We flip this card and leave it on top. Your persistence has paid off. After a long time, you see a light smoke, which you finally managed to make into a cozy campfire. So we take the campfire card. Okay. We get a safety. So the fire brings us safety. And now we throw out this card. All right, well, we're running out of cards here. We only have this 1 card. You set up a small yet comfortable camp in a grove close to the shore and are now planning longer hikes in the mountains. It's time for a new adventure. Whatever, you don't feel ready yet. So we can lose a safety and flip this card. It's the only card on our deck, so we would then prepare for it. Or you're looking for a way up a steep mountain. We can take the 6 mountain cards and shuffle them all in, so we'd have an adventure in the mountains. Or you hope to find an easier path uphill through the forest. We can take the trees and the mountains and lose a fish. There's some very interesting mechanics going on in this game. So we can either lose a safety and see the back of this card that might help us prepare, or we can bring in the mountain cards for an adventure in the mountains at the cost of an energy. Or at the cost of a food, we can bring the mountain cards and another forest card, which maybe is an easier card to find stuff on. We only have 2 food. What do you think? All right, what do you think? I mean, we have plenty of safety, so maybe preparing for this is the smarter way to go. Jonathan thinks go here to find an easier path to the forest. Remember, there's not much of a chance we're going to encounter that forest, but it does seem like it might be a better outcome for us. I guess the real question here is, should we flip this card to prepare better? Or do we not have time for that? All right, we'll do Jonathan's thing. We're going to do this last thing here. So we're going to lose a food, which brings us down to 1 food. We're going to take 1 tree. So there's 2 trees from before that we never took. guess that's it. It's just the 2 trees from before that we never took. So we shuffle these randomly. We take one of them. The other one at the back. We find our 6 mountains, which are going to be our new adventure. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We take all of those mountains. We shuffle them. Presumably we shuffle them with the tree. And then we put them at the back of our deck. We lost a fish already, and then we throw this card out. All right, so our first adventure takes us to a mountain. You've lost count. What day is today? It's not that important, but if you're right, today could be your birthday. You celebrate this day with a trip to the fruit grove, where you put together a sumptuous feast. Set food value at 3. So our food is now at 1, so setting the food to 3 would be a pretty good thing, up by 2. This thought amuses you. You put off your tasks and rest all day, set energy value to 3. Well, our energy is 1, so that would have the same boost by 2. Is it or not? You're almost sure that your birthday will be tomorrow, or even the day after tomorrow. You wander aimlessly along a path you have trodden deep in your thoughts. So look at what this does. This loses us a safety, and then this card just goes to the back where we could do it again. So if your food and energy were already high, such that doing these would be worthless, you could just choose this and put it off. But we need these values. So probably we should use one of these. What's more important, energy or food? Let's do our energy up to 3. All right, energy up to 3. Then we flip this and put it at the back. All right. During one of your forays into the mountains, you conquer the highest peak. From here, a breathtaking view of the ocean makes your island seem just a tiny grain of sand. In the mist on the horizon, you make out the shore of another island, much larger than yours. We either take some food. Our food is low, so that's tricky. We could have a little picnic, flip it and keep it on the top. Or you're tired, there's no time to enjoy the view. You set off on a return trip before night falls. So we have plenty of energy, so that would be a reasonable choice. Logbook and rope. Now we do have the rope. So let's see. Since we have the rope, we could do this. Descend from the top on the other steeper side of the mountain, securing yourself with the rope. But look, these all have the exact same mechanical effect. We flip it on the short side and resolve it on the top. So we could just do it these 3 ways. But our safety is our highest thing, so I think we should use the rope. So safety's at 4. We're going to bring it down to 3. We're going to use our rope. We don't get rid of the rope. And we flip this over. On the way down, you find a crater. Hot lava flows out of it in several places, and acrid smoke rises. You have a bad feeling. You've never encountered anything like this before. And you become extra vigilant. So we could either increase our safety. If we didn't have a campfire, it looks like we could take this lava and make a campfire with it. But we do have a campfire, so we're just going to do this. So our safety goes up to 4. And this card gets discarded. Okay, so that was a wash. Oh, we're still on mountains. You pass a dead tree. Apparently a storm toppled it a long time ago. You can sit down on the fallen trunk to rest and have a snack. That would eat our food. That would bring us to 0 food, which would trigger something bad. Or perhaps later you can use it to build something. So we could just delay it and build something with the tree. Seems like that's better for us since we're desperate for food. We don't have a knife or axe. All right, so I'm going to flip this over and try to build something out of it later. Let's see what we got here. There are quite a few fallen trees around your camp. It would be wise to stock up as many of them as you can. Use them as both firewood and building material. So if we're too exhausted, we can just put this at the back of the deck and deal with it later again. I like this mechanic of being able to put things off. Or we can add another forest card, lose a safety and an energy, flip this over, and deal with it right now. You drag and pop fallen trees from all over the place. Campfire and knife we don't have. Axe we don't have. So I think we should do this one here, don't you? Shuffle in another tree, lose a safety, lose an energy, and then use these branches right away. Okay, that's what I'm going to do. So I'm going to take this other tree, the last tree, I think, for us. All right, so I put this at the back. Lose a safety. Lose an energy. Flip this over and deal with it right away. Lose another energy. Finally, you managed to collect enough trunks to build something out of them. All right, so now our energy has dropped down to 1. We're in a bit of trouble now. It was hard work, and now you need to lie down and rest. So we can take an energy and just delay this card by shoving it to the back. You lose an energy, and then you can reset that energy. You could do that over and over again. It just does nothing. It just puts off resolving this card. Or we can use your head and try hard enough. You can connect the trunks to get a raft. We'd lose an energy, which would bring us to 0 energy. Bad things would happen. What would happen? I'm not sure what this means. We lose our entire hand of cards. Something happens and then we lose our entire hand of cards. That's horrible. So that would be pretty bad for us. But we would get a raft, it seems. Now we have a rope. So since we have a rope, we could use up our rope to tie the trunks together. It wouldn't cost us an energy. We would just flip and deal this card. So these two are the same. It's just this, because we have the rope, it doesn't cost an energy, but we have to use up the rope. So what do you think? I guess it's important you not see this stuff. Shall we do this one? Surely we have the rope. Wait, we don't have the rope. Where's our rope? Oh, here it is. We do have a rope. We haven't lost it yet. All right, I think we should build a raft, but boy, that's a little risky going out on a raft. In fact, that seems like a very bad idea in general. If you're shipwrecked, to get on a raft, that's a good way to die. Like maybe if you had like 500 fish and you went out on a raft. But surely we're going to build this raft, right? Eventually. All right, let's do it. So we're going to discard the rope, which goes back into the item pile. And then we're building the raft, so we're flipping this over. All right, here we go. Your raft is ready. You can't wait to go to the island you noticed on the horizon when you went to the mountains. And it seems that the weather and the current agree with your plan for the crossing. But you're too tired right now, and you lie down in the shade to get some rest. Okay, so we can get some energy, and then just move this to the back. Or return to camp, gather enough food for the journey. Who knows how long this adventure will take? That would get us 1 food, but lose an energy. Or we've got strength. Sail off the shore, gain an energy, lose a food, but we're both of our stuff is at 1, so either one, bad things are going to happen to us. Or if we had the logbook, it feels like maybe that corpse had a logbook on it. That would have really made our life easier. I wonder if we shouldn't have sailed out to that corpse. Well, this is problematic for us. Either of these two would bring our energy or fish to 0. So I feel like maybe we got to do this one. Look at this. You could keep shoving this to the back, and each time you get an extra energy. You can build up your energy that way. So I think we're too tired right now. We need to lie down and get some rest. Especially since we have some nice tree stuff here. So I'm going to move this. I'm going to do this action. I'm going to move this to the back and bring our energy up. See if we can't get our energy a little higher. You see a little monkey. It cautiously approaches you and begins to gesture, touching its mouth with a furry paw. You understand it's hungry too. You offer the creature some food. The monkey deftly snatches it from your hands and disappears in the foliage. All right, well, we don't have food to give this monkey. So he's not getting... He's not... It would be nice to become friends with the monkey, but we can't afford it. We could... You try to catch the monkey, but in vain. It's a pity. You could throw a whole feast. So if you wanted to aggravate the monkey, risk your safety, you could push this to the back to let you try it again. Otherwise, you give up. I think what we need to do is learn what these do. This says 2 lose hand, 10 lose hand. Let me just see what these say on our rules here. Discard the whole pile from your hand, except for the cards you were just told to take. So you still get your items, but you lose your hand. So if we run out of food, we take, I guess, card 10. I don't know what that tiny little thing to the right of the 10 is. I think it's an asterisk and a 2 double asterisk. So in both cases, we would lose our entire hand, which we don't want to do. So I think in this case, the only 2 options are to come back for the monkey by doing this, bring our safety down by 1, or just give up on the monkey. So what do you want to do? I think we should just give up on the monkey. I don't think he's worth it. We're not bringing him on the raft. So I'm just going to get rid of this card. Right? Our raft is our way out. So we're not traveling with that monkey, but this looks more promising. You scale one of the high mountains. There you hear hissing and gurgling. Hot water gushes from the ground, forming a steaming spring. The water tastes slightly of sulfur, like rotten eggs, but you don't care. On your way up, you got winded and thirsty. So we can gain a fish, lose a safety, flip this card to the back. Or you dare not drink too much, but a warm bath is exactly what your exhausted body has been craving for a while. So we can either gain an energy or gain a fish and lose a safety. Either way, this card flips and goes to the back. According to this, we have 2 energies, so maybe what we want more is fish. Shall we get the fish? Okay, let's get the fish. We'll lose a safety. Seems like that's the worst deal. This is gain 1, lose 1. This is just gain 1. But I think food is what we need most. So we're going to do this top one. We're going to gain a food. We're going to lose a safety. So if you get down to 0, a snake comes in your deck. So that's not as bad as losing your entire hand. So we did this, then we flip this and put it in the back. All right, so now we got our trees. Let's hope this is more fertile land for us. At the foot of a coastal cliff, you find stones with sharp edges which resemble flint. They might come in handy. You memorize the place for later. So we could flip this card, put it at the back, so when we eventually get back to this card, there's quite a few cards we have to go through, then we'll eventually get it. If we had energy higher than 2, we don't. We have an energy of 2. So we really don't have this option to find it right now. All right, so it flips and goes to the back. At night, the wind from the shore is always cold, and today the damp air chills you to the bone. You also hear creepy sounds in the dark, so we can lose a safety and put this to the back. Campfire, which we have, we can gain an energy and put this to the back. I like that. The light and warmth from the fire cheer you up and chase away your fears. If you have the tent or the shelter, at least you have some protection from wild animals. So they all do the same thing. This one loses you a safety. This one's nothing. This one's energy. So clearly we're going to do this one. It's clearly better. So our energy goes up to 3. That's great. And now we're going to flip this and put this at the back. The night is restless again. You're constantly being bitten. Rats. Is this not a sign that ships have landed here before? These vile creatures have deprived you of sleep for several days now, and their bites don't heal well. So we can lose an energy and just put this right to the back where we have to deal with it again. Or Bodo, that must be the monkey. So if we had made friends with him, he would get rid of the rats for us. That's too bad we don't have that. Or we can lure the rats away from the tent and deal with the other side of it. I mean, the problem is that I'd rather lose energy than fish. But if we lose energy, we just have to deal with this card again when we cycle back around to it. Whereas if we do this one, we resolve the next stage of this card. Maybe we can catch and eat a rat. So since we got rid of the monkey, we're not going to make friends with it. I think it's either put this off or do this. I think we got to do this. Jonathan says we'll probably have a chance to take the raft first. Well, that's a good point. Maybe we're going to get off the raft before we have to face the rats again. So maybe we should just delay this and then try to get off with the raft. You think, Jonathan? Well, I think it's time to take a little break. So give some thoughts about whether you want to do this one or this one. We'll take a break. I'll see you in 8 minutes. All right, we're back. We're playing Washed Ashore, which is a little bit of a hybrid choose your own adventure resource management game with a Robinson Crusoe theme. Feels a little bit like Friday with its cards that have multiple uses depending on their orientation. A reminder that after we finish playing this, we'll talk about it, talk about any game design ideas that we've seen that are interesting and our overall thoughts, but we are in the middle of our adventure. Let's get back to it here. Here's our current stats. We've got 3 energy, 2 food, 2 safety. Jonathan was saying, look, just do this action here to delay this card. It just shuffles to the back, and we'll try to get off this island before we have to go to sleep and face these rats again. We do have a tent, so it's awfully tempting to use this thing and flip this card around and deal with it right now. But for all we know, something bad will happen if we lure the rats away. Something good or something bad could happen. I don't know. But Jonathan's convinced me we're going to do this. We're going to delay it, and we're going to try to get off this island before this even happens. So our energy is going to go down to 2. We just shove this in back to put it off, and we move on. Exploring the island, you enter a small grove. Its cool shade lures you in, and a soft carpet of moss and wind-blown leaves covers the ground. If you weren't so miserable, you would believe it to be the most beautiful place in the world. So we could take this action, which brings a tree card into our deck, and then puts this in the back. I don't think we have any more tree cards. I think we've got them all. So if that's right, nothing would happen. So, or you lie down on a pile of leaves in the shade where you finally fall into a deep healing sleep. So we could get an extra energy, drop our safety to 1. It's a little nerve-wracking. But energy is good. Knife and campfire. We don't have a knife and campfire. So we can't bring out another tree. So I think we should do this. Let's increase our energy, decrease our safety. So energy goes up to 3. Safety goes down to 1. And this gets flipped to the back just the same as here. All right. Back it goes. We'll never see it again, according to Jonathan's plan. Oh, look, our raft is ready. Your raft is ready. You can't wait to go to the island you noticed on the horizon when you went to the mountains, and it seems that the weather and the current agree with your plan for the crossing. But you're too tired right now. You lie down in the shade to get some rest. That's what we did before. We delayed it. Now we can lose an energy and gain a fish, which is not a bad plan. If we're going to be on a raft, 2 energy and 3 food. You don't need that much energy if you're on a raft, but you will need food. So I think that seems like a good option for us. And then we would deal with the raft trip right away, or we could do vice versa. Gain an energy, lose a food, and get on the raft. We don't have the logbook, so we can't do anything else. So I think this makes the most sense for us. We're not going to need that much energy on the raft, but we are going to need food for the long trip. I think. Unless it's only a day, then you need energy and not food. But okay, so what's it going to be? I mean, I think it makes most sense since we have high energy and low food to do the one that gives us food and uses up energy. Unless you think the raft trip is going to be mostly energy. Get food, lose energy. Okay, so we're going to do this one right here. We're going to get food, lose energy. Energy goes to 2, food goes to 3. I always remember this book. I forget what it was called, about this guy who got lost in a life raft for weeks and months. And food was his biggest problem. All right, so we did this, and now we're going to face this. Here we go. You're afraid to leave the familiar coast. All right, losing energy. Yikes, now we're down to 1 energy. But new adventures and new land await you. The boundless expanse of the open ocean greets you with seagull cries. Waves splash against your raft. Discard shelter, tent, rope, and campfire if you have them. Leave the rest. So we lose our tent and our campfire. Those go away into the deck. And we lose our entire hand of cards and take 36. So this entire set of cards, as Jonathan predicted, gets left. And now we're going into chapter 2, I guess. Remove the marker clips from the chapter 1 counter. Wow. Whoops. It says remove them, taking into account your food value, and set them on the blue triangles around this card. Only if you completed chapter 1 with food value 3 or more, which we did, move the clip on the right to the blue. Only with the altar, move it to the green. Then flip this card and put it on the table. Now you'll track important parameters on it. So, all right, let's see if we can make sense of this. Taking into account your food. Okay, so our food was 3. So this going here. And then the rest of them just don't matter. They get reset to... We don't have an altar, so otherwise they go to the blues. Now, how do we read this? 37, flip, flip. Put this card, put it on the table. So no matter what, we'd have to draw 37. It's a little confusing why. Okay, but here's our new stats. We've got divinity, well-being, and trust. Oh, that's weird. Divinity, well-being, and trust in chapter 2. Okay. We don't need this card anymore. But we do need card 37. Oh, we're on a whole new island now. Chapter 2. All of our discontents for what we want appear to me to spring from want of thankfulness for what we have. Okay, so it says flip it over, and it's the top of our deck. This is beautiful art, you have to say. When you sail closer to the new island, hundreds of natives pour out onto the shore. You're scared, but so it seems are they. Suddenly you hear a terrible roar behind you. Turning around, you see a column of smoke and ash on the horizon, illuminated by crimson reflections covering half the sky, and you understand that a volcano has erupted on the island you have just left. You mentally thank the gods that you got out of there in time and saved yourself from inevitable death. The natives scatter in terror, hiding in the coastal thicket as the ground beneath them begins to tremble. Just as suddenly, everything calms down and your raft gently bumps into the sandy shore. You pull the raft out onto the deserted beach, contemplating what to do next. Take and shuffle cards 38 to 42. This is your new pile, so it's probably going to be these cards. Then this one goes away. Okay, 38 to 42. which we think are these claw mark cards. Okay. Does it say shuffle them? Yes. Okay, so these randomly get shuffled. This is our new pile. This card gets discarded. Okay, let's see what we've got here. You're unexpectedly surrounded by several natives. How could they sneak up on you so quietly? Trying not to panic, you act on a hunch and break into dance. So we could lose divinity to deal with the flip side of this card right away. Or we could grab a lanky teenager by the shoulders and with a loud boo try to scare off the crowd. And flip it this way and deal with it right away. If we have a golden plate, we could do something else. Well, I don't think trying to scare a crowd of natives sounds very smart. Dance sounds more appealing to me. Are we all okay with doing a dance? All right, let's do a dance. So I'm going to lose a divinity. Brings us down to 3. Do a dance. Surprised, the natives retreat a couple of steps and look at you incredulously. Then they glance at each other and burst out laughing. Your panic is slowly ebbing. Someone cautiously pats you on the shoulder and everyone else wants to touch you too. They feel your limbs with curiosity. So either we can say, enough. With newfound respect, they disappear as mysteriously as they appeared. But look here, one of them forgot his spear. So we can lose another divinity and we get a spear. Or you shy away from them. They seem to be calling you somewhere. Someone puts a strange fruit in your hand. You take the food, but do not intend to become their toy. You fall behind a little and finally hide in the forest. So we can either take the fruit to increase our well-being, or we can lose more divinity and get a spear. What do you think? I mean, I'm inclined to get items whenever possible in this game. So I think I try to get the spear. Although going up in well-being would be nice. Jonathan says, I like maintaining divinity. All right, Jonathan, you want just the well-being then and not get the spear? And then we won't try to go hunting for food. We'll try to get it some other way. We'll become vegetarian. All right, Jonathan says he wants to maintain our divinity. So we're going to, instead of staking the spear, we're going to go up in well-being to 5. And we get rid of this card. All right, so we just ate some fruit. You walk deeper into the jungle. Mosquitoes buzz around your sweaty forehead, but soon the trees recede, and you are faced with a huge stone temple towering above you. Its roof is gleaming with gold. So we can circle the temple looking for an entrance, climb onto the roof and tear off one of its golden tiles. The locals hardly know the price of gold, and it may actually save your life if you ever return to the civilized world. Or, blinded by this wealth, you recoil and stumble. You hurry to get to your feet and walk away. So if we do this one, we would lose a well-being, but we would gain a trust. These stats are weird. Well-being, trust, and divinity. That's weird. I'd be inclined to try to go inside it. I mean, surely we should try to go inside it and explore, huh? Rather than steal a tile. That's a good way to get in trouble. Let's try to go inside it. So we flip this card. You enter the temple. Inside it is dry, and fruits and other offerings lie on the altar. So we can relish the offerings by increasing our divinity, decreasing our well-being, and see what happens. Or rest in the temple for one night, in the morning leave the place. And then if we had an altar, we could do something else, which we don't have. All right, so there are our choices. Do we increase our divinity, decrease our well-being? Sorry, decrease our trust. Our trust is already down to 2. That's awfully dangerous. Robin says, do it. Increase our divinity. All right, we're going to do this. We're going to relish the offerings. Our trust is down to 1. That's a very bad sign. We're about to lose our entire hand. We're not careful. But that's what Jonathan wants to do. Divinity goes up to 4. And then this card gets flipped and we tackle it right now. All right, so we're in trouble now. We're in a lot of trouble. All right, look at this. +1 well-being. The sense of fullness sends you to slumber. Once you wake up from a deep sleep, you notice a golden tablet lighted by a beam of sunshine falling from a hole in the roof. You've never seen such huge wealth, and unable to resist, you remove the golden plate from the wall and quietly leave the temple. However, look, the moment this happens, our trust is at 0. We would lose our entire hand. We can't do this. We don't have an altar or bracelet, so that's it. Jonathan has killed us. So we're losing our trust. The moment this happens, we have to do this. I believe that's right. I think the rule is that as soon as this happens, we do that first. Let's see, let's make sure of that. If this makes your safety, immediately add this, go back to your card and set your safety back to 3. Lastly, flip. So I think the moment we had to do this, we would lose our entire hand. So the only question is, can we continue this by doing this? Or does this lose our entire hand? I think we lose our entire hand right away. All right, so this dropped to 0. And this tells us to get 4 and asterisk. But what does that mean? Because is that actually... Because 4 is a... The 4 card is an act. But what does that really mean? Somewhere we saw something about asterisks. Discard the whole pile from your hand, except for the cards you were just told to take. So, what is this saying? It's awfully confusing. Like it's got some tiny little asterisk. Where did it say about the asterisk? Is it telling us to use the flip side of the 4? Yes, maybe it is. Okay, yes, you're right. 4 asterisk. Let no man despise the secret hints and notices of danger which sometimes are given him, when he may think there is no possibility of it being real. A pair of strong natives pounce on you when you least expect it. They twist your arms and take you into the village square. The chieftain and the shaman of the tribe confer with the warriors for a long time, while your overseers keep you captive. A crowd of onlookers gathers around. Then the chieftain announces his decision to the tribe. His speech is unintelligible to you, but by the commotion that ensues, you understand they are preparing for a ceremony of some kind. Apparently, they've decided that your appearance on the island is a bad omen, and want to sacrifice you to win over their gods. Your heart sinks with fear and despair, but all attempts to escape are in vain as they drag you to the sacrificial altar. Okay, then it says card 68, and this card gets discarded. Okay, 68. This is the last card in the deck, I guess. The end. You have completed your story. Write down the card number of your ending. Tick your achievements. Okay, so our ending was a 4-star. That's how we died. We didn't tame Bodo. We built a tent but not a shelter. We reached chapter 2 without any items. We did do that. You collected 2 spears. No. You've earned the absolute trust of the natives. No. At the end of chapter 3, you still have the golden plate. No. So there's 13 different endings. Try to find them all. Then it says flip this over. Attention, this is the last card of the deck. Return the game to its original state in a few simple steps. Stack up all the cards. Each card is a number. To make it easier, we recommend sorting all the cards by type according to the icons in the same corner. Sort the cards in the deck into ascending order from 1 to 68. You're ready to start a new adventure by choosing other options. Jonathan says, I flew too close to the sun. Yes, okay. So let us do our normal thing. I'm sort of curious to play again, but I think we should do our thing. Better to do multiple shorter streams, especially when we've got COVID. So we should play this again, because I'm curious to play it a couple more times and see how we do. But that doesn't mean we can't talk about it. So we'll take a 3-minute break. We'll come back. We'll share our thoughts. And we'll talk about our plans going forward. I'll see you in 3 minutes. All right, we're back to give our final, maybe preliminary is a better word, preliminary thoughts on Washed Ashore. This little small box, I guess Choose Your Own Adventure is the closest name for this genre, but clearly a little more than just a Choose Your Own Adventure game. Let's talk about it here. Jonathan says, I'm perfectly fine with ending it here. Also, don't think it would be that hard to reset to the start of Chapter 2. Stats had reset. We had just drawn and shuffled some cards. So Jonathan is saying we could play just Chapter 2 again. Not sure. Well, I think we'll end here. 2 hours. I think we'll end here. But let's see. Jonathan says, overall, seems like a fun short game. It's interesting new stats come out with new chapters. The idea of looping cards through our pile seems interesting. Might be interesting to see what happens if you just keep looping for a while. Okay, let me give some thoughts here. First of all, I really like it. I think it's, as was pointed out, it's a short exploration game, you'd almost call it. But it's essentially a little choose your adventure. It feels a little bit closer to Cartaventura than Friday to me. Friday feels much more of a sort of strategic push your luck game. There's no story per se, whereas this one really is all about story. But it's clear that there's a couple things here that stand out. The first one is this mechanic of making choices that have you throw a card to the back of the pile, the back of your stack that you'll go through. Sometimes you just move the same card exactly with its same orientation. So you're basically just saying, I'm going to encounter this card again as it is. And often, though, you flip it in one of two ways and put it at the back. And that means you're going to encounter an evolved version of that card. That really feels interesting because it's not strategic so much. It's rarely strategic, but it is fun narratively to say, okay, we've found this thing and it's going to trigger an event in a couple of cards. But we don't really know what that event is going to be, at least the first time through. And then sometimes you can say, okay, we'll just push it to the back and we'll see it again. And sometimes you can see the consequences of different actions are basically the same, so you can make a sort of intelligent decision there. I would say in general, it's hard to predict what's going to happen, what you're going to need. It suffers the same thing that most of these choose your own adventure games suffer from, which is you can't really predict what resources you're going to need or what you're going to get from a card. So in some ways, it really does feel like the way you win this game is by remembering that doing this here has this effect. And you could see how if you played it over and over again, you would start, there's a little bit of randomness, but not that much. A little bit of randomness when a grouping of 3 cards get shuffled. You don't know what order you're going to tackle it in, or which card you're going to get. But you can see how you would definitely learn, okay, if I do this, this is how I discover the tent. And if I get the tent, I'm going to be able to use it in this situation, and the rope in this situation. So it does feel like this is very much a game where, as you played it over and over again, you would remember what cards gave you what items that let you solve certain things. And the breaking it up into chapters means you could almost memorize a way to get off the island on chapter 1 to the point where you could always get yourself off the island reliably and then work on chapter 2. But the cards are short enough, the story is entertaining and fun enough that you might very well say, well, let's try to play it this time and make friends with the monkey. I think it does hit the right sweet spot for length of game that you could actually play these things over and over again. It's almost like the full motion videos, Dragonlance or whatever the video disc game was, where you go the wrong way and die and then you play it again. And I do like this system of tracking stats, and I do, again, this idea that we've got these events that trigger. Now, this one triggered an end of game. This one might also, it looks like both these two stats may always trigger an end of game. Bad outcome. This one looks like at the top, same thing with chapter 1. It didn't end the game for us. It just reset us and had us bring out another card. I thought it was cute and fun and enjoyable. And Dragon's Lair is, Jonathan is reminding me, was the name of the video disc game. Jonathan says, I'm a little surprised that letting a stat drop to 0 resulted in game over with no way to try to recover. Yes, I agree. That was a little harsh. And it did seem like because of that, maybe a general strategy might be to always try to keep things balanced. Like, don't let either of these get too low. I do think it'd be hard to make a case that this is a strategic game. It's much more of a storytelling game where, by remembering what things happen, you would get better at it rather than by using skill. But I still think it's breezy enough that that would be fun. And you'd go through it very quickly. And you don't have to get that many hours out of it to make it worth $12. So, yeah, I would absolutely recommend this. I think it feels, to me, a little more mechanically interesting than the Cartaventura, but it's very similar vibe in terms of the experience of playing it. And I love the idea that there are 13 different endings. I could absolutely see playing this over and over again because it's so quickly and trying to get those different endings. And I love the use of all of these items. It is fun to use an item, and it feels like, well, a good way to say it is it really does feel like there's some real exploration going on in here. Like, we avoided that corpse, but now I'm very curious to see if we had gone out and rescued that corpse, would we have gotten the logbook? You could absolutely see that after you've hit a few cards that say, do you have this item? You might say, okay, let's try to get that item on our next playthrough. So I think we'll play this again soon. We'll just go through it, maybe on an unannounced stream or with little advance notice. We'll just break this out and play it every once in a while. I'm curious to try to get the rest of those items. There is something enjoyable about getting items, and I'm now curious what chapter 3 will look like. Will it be a whole new set of things here? It might have been fun to have little events trigger at the 7 mark, not just the 0 mark. And I don't know, should we have played it on an easier mode? But it does feel like, I like the exploration aspect of it. It does make me want to play it again, choose different choices so that we can get different items, so that we can make different choices. Clever. A clever system. I think they should make more of these. I love the mechanic where you're flipping cards and throwing them to the back of the deck or sometimes the front of the deck. Yeah, overall, very well done. Okay, thank you for joining me. Hopefully I will recover from COVID without incident, and we will play War Story on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. If I don't quite recover, maybe we'll play something shorter like this. Jonathan, thank you for joining me. Unfortunate that we did get killed by the natives, but I guess that's only to be expected. I'll see you guys next time.